Senator Millett, Representative Cornfield, and the distinguished members of the Educational and Cultural Affairs Committee. This is a testimony in opposition to LD798 and in support of LD987. My name is Zealia Cavalier. I'm the mother of a medically complex, medically fragile child. Her name is Uliana, and she's 5.5 years old. We live in Berwick, Maine, and my daughter attends a private school in Elliott. Finding a school that could accommodate her medical needs was not easy. This bill would prevent her from having access to an education. We've spent the better part of 5 years attempting to manage our daughter's medical condition. We've sought out specialized medical care and dealt with hospitalizations and more emergency room trips than I could possibly count. I would literally have to get her records to figure out how many times we've been in the ER. Her case is unique, and part of treating it has required us to travel halfway across the U.S. for specialized treatment, testing, and surgeries. Her future includes pretty much more of the same. So, uncovering all the facets of her condition is an ongoing process, and there are only a few people who specialize in treating it, which makes it tricky. We spend hours each day administering her medication. I had to make special arrangements to our entire lives for the last 2 days just to be able to be here with you today for her care while I'm away from her. The topic of vaccinations came up with our pediatrician, as it usually does. And our pediatrician told us not to vaccinate Uliana because of her medical condition and because of the family history of disease and vaccine reactions. She went on to tell us that she could not write a medical exemption for our daughter because she doesn't qualify for a legal medical exemption. She said that she couldn't risk her career or her license to attempt to write one. And having seen the current political climate, I have to agree with that assessment of the risk to her livelihood. Therefore, we continue to use the now available exemptions to enroll our daughter in her private school. I know there are many other families in the same position. LD798 directly endangers girls and boys like Uliana, kids who can't have vaccinations but who can't get a medical exemption, children whose pediatricians have told their parents not to vaccinate them but will not write them a medical exemption because the legal guidelines are too narrow. There are so many factors to consider when making a decision about whether or not to vaccinate a child. They include the child's unique medical history, the family history, and of course, the risks of receiving the vaccine versus the risk of potential exposure to the illness, and the family's religious and philosophical ideals. In the face of these risks, I'm comforted to know that since 2000, there's only been a single case of measles in all of Maine. That was in 2017, and it was actually a foreigner who was diagnosed in the state and did not spread to anybody else. There have also been 0 deaths related to measles for children in over 20 years. So I beg you to oppose LD798 and support LD987. Do not put children like Uliana at risk, please.
Are there any questions? Thank you. Oh, no.
I do have a question.
Yes.
I was just talking with the current president of the American Academy of Pediatrics, Maine, who's a physician who's practiced for about 20 years in Maine, and I actually know her personally. And I said, has a physician ever written a request for medical exemption, which the CDC has turned down? And she said, not to my knowledge. They're not as narrow as people are making them out to be. So if you haven't pressed your physician, I would ask that you press your pediatrician and ask if he or she will write that letter, see whether it is accepted or not, and then get back to us and let us know if a letter such as the one that you feel that you need, and I don't doubt that for a second.
I don't think that this is appropriate in terms of giving advice to people coming to testify.
I will touch on the question that I heard there about how hard I pushed for this exemption. This was a conversation that went on over the course of several months. There was actually a program we wanted to enroll our daughter in that we were not able to because of her vaccination status. And so we pushed really hard to get the medical exemption. And the physician said, do not vaccinate her, but I cannot write this exemption. Currently in California, there's a lot of issues going on with people's licensures being under investigation because they've written medical exemptions. So pushing the envelope to write them is not something she felt she could do. I would also say I've been listening to testimonies all day, and I'm hearing a lot of the lawyers say that we are able to, that physicians are able to write it, and that the illnesses listed in the law are just like as guidelines, like, sure, if they have this, you know, go ahead and write it. If that's the case, that they can write it for anything in their discretion, that needs to be made abundantly clear to doctors so that the parents of children like Uliana can actually get the support that they need.
Well, you've clearly, thank you, you've clearly raised an issue that needs work, and I simply wanted to check it with somebody who's a very experienced pediatrician, and I apologize, Madam Chair. We will definitely look into this, I promise you.
Thank you.